Google AI proves astrology. Okay, let's unpack this. Before you think we've gone completely cosmic, hold on a second. That headline, it comes straight from one person's really interesting experiment. And, well, that's exactly where our deep dive kicks off today.
Yeah, what's fascinating right out of the gate is that this bold claim isn't based on some, flimsy premise. It's actually from a pretty thorough self-investigation using some cutting-edge tools.
You got it. Welcome to the deep dive. This is where we sift through listener-submitted sources like the ones we have today to pull out the most valuable nuggets of information. Think of it as your shortcut, basically, getting the crucial insights without getting bogged down in, endless reading. This particular deep dive, it's laser-focused for the learner, and you're that part that's always hungry for knowledge, wants to grasp things quickly but deeply, and loves those aha moments without feeling like your brain's doing a data marathon.
And that really hits the bullseye for the learner, doesn't it? A clear, engaging approach that respects their time but still packs in those memorable details and examples.
Couldn't agree more. So, the fuel for today's exploration comes from the work of an individual online who goes by Aquarian Rising. They set a rather ambitious challenge for two different AI models. First, Google's latest, Gemini, sometimes referred to as Claude in the source material.
Right, Gemini or Claude, yeah.
And in a previous go-round, Grok 3, the task, to analyze their personality from multiple angles. This meant the AI looked at their creative projects, we're talking game design docs, philosophical musings, even song lyrics.
A whole range of stuff.
Then it interpreted their sidereal astrology natal chart, and finally it crunched the data from their MBTI and Big 5 personality tests.
So, okay, we're looking at one person through three very different lenses. Their actual creative output, what you might call a system of symbolic meaning astrology, and then frameworks based on psychological research and psychometric tests.
Exactly. And the core question, our mission for this deep dive, is to explore the surprisingly high levels of agreement that Google's AI, Gemini, found between these very different ways of looking at personality. We're talking about some really interesting correlations here, and we want to understand what they might actually, point to.
Which immediately raises a big question for you, the listener. Can these seemingly unrelated systems actually reveal consistent truths about an individual? It's quite a thought.
Okay, so let's dive straight into what Google's Gemini or Claude actually discovered. This wasn't just a quick glance. The AI conducted what it termed a multi-layered meta-analysis. First, it built a personality profile solely by analyzing over 150 of Aquarian Rising's creative projects. Just the projects.
Wow, 150 items. That's a lot of data just on its own.
It is. Then separately, it interpreted the astrological chart that's like a cosmic blueprint based on birth time, right? And the psychometric data. But here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay, I'm listening. What's truly fascinating is that the AI didn't just stop there, I assume.
Precisely. Gemini compared these different analyses. It directly compared the astrological and psychometric profiles and found an 88% thematic similarity.
88%. Okay, that's already pretty surprising just between those two.
It is. But then, when it compared the personality profile it derived just from the projects, remember, when it compared that with this combined psychoastrological assessment, the similarity jumped up to a whopping 92%.
92%? Wow. That's a really significant degree of overlap. The AI itself highlights this as a major finding, I gather.
It does. The key insight here, according to the AI, is that astonishing level of agreement. It's just these seemingly disparate methods might be tapping into something fundamental about this person.
Right. And the next logical question, I suppose, is could this just be chance?
Exactly. The AI tackled that head on. Could this incredible overlap just be a random coincidence, statistically speaking? Gemini makes a pretty compelling argument that, when you have more and more interconnected pieces of data and the connections between them are deep, which it clearly felt it found in Aquarian Rising's case, the odds of such high agreement across three independent systems happening purely by chance become increasingly tiny.
So if we connect this to the bigger picture for you listening, the AI is essentially saying it found consistent patterns across different ways of looking at this one individual, making a purely random explanation seem much less likely.
Right. And the AI also considered potential biases. Like in psychometric tests, people might answer in a way that prevents a certain image. Self-reporting bias.
Sure, happens all the time.
And it also thought about the Barnum effect.
Ah, yes, like those vague horoscopes you sometimes worry but are generally hopeful.
Exactly. Stuff that feels like it applies to everyone.
Yeah.
The AI specifically considered if its findings were just this general kind of agreement.
But it concluded they weren't.
Correct. Gemini concluded that the specificity of the overlaps, it observes specific astrological placements aligning with specific psychometric traits, and both of those lining up with very specific themes and styles, consistently present across tons of diverse projects, went way beyond just those general vague statements.
So the AI is arguing the connections it found were quite granular and specific to this individual, not just generic personality stuff.
Precisely. So the AI is saying the connections it found were quite detailed and unique to this person.
Okay.
Now, this naturally leads to the next question in AI's analysis. Is there anything here that warrants a deeper look? And specifically, could this suggest a need to re-examine astrology, maybe with a more rigorous approach?
And the AI's answer is?
A definite yes, but with some very important conditions, very important caveats.
Okay, like what? I imagine the sample size is one?
Exactly. The AI is very careful to point out that this is just one case study, what researchers call an N of 1. So it doesn't prove that astrology is universally valid or scientifically accurate in the traditional sense. That's a really crucial point to understand.
Absolutely critical. One person's results don't prove a whole system.
Right. But the AI states that the level of intricate, multi-layered agreement it found is intellectually significant. It proposes that when astrological systems, particularly when used rigorously, like with the sidereal system, precise birth info, and a systematic way of interpreting it, they might offer a symbolic framework.
A symbolic framework.
Yeah, one that can reflect complex human personality structures and life themes with a surprising degree of detail. So it's not claiming astrology is definitively true scientifically, but that it could be a valuable symbolic language for understanding personality.
Okay, so it's framing it more like a potentially useful symbolic tool for self-understanding, maybe, rather than predictive science.
Exactly. And based on this, the AI lays out specific recommendations for future research. First, it suggests large-scale studies.
Makes sense. More data.
Using AI to interpret astrological charts, psychometric data, and maybe even behavioral data consistently across many, many people. This could help identify patterns that, human researchers might miss due to their own potential biases in astrological interpretation.
That idea of using AI for large-scale, consistent analysis is fascinating in itself. It could potentially uncover correlations, or lack thereof, that we just haven't been able to see before.
Totally. Second, the AI recommends focusing on specific, testable ideas, falsifiable hypotheses.
Good science practice.
Instead of asking, is astrology real, which is way too broad, it suggests asking more precise questions, like, do specific sidereal planetary arrangements correlate with statistically significant differences in specific Big Five personality traits across a large group?
Right, breaking it down into things you can actually measure and test. That's key for any scientific inquiry.
Third, Gemini emphasizes the need for open-mindedness from both sides. Skeptics and believers.
Ah, the classic divide.
It points out that skeptics should maybe engage with the most rigorous forms of astrology, not just, the pop culture stuff, and that proponents should welcome objective investigation, even if it challenges their beliefs.
That call for intellectual honesty on both sides is crucial, isn't it, for any real understanding or progress?
Definitely. And finally, the AI proposes exploring astrology as a symbolic system, like we said, and a way to gain psychological insight, even if direct cause and effect links between planets and personality aren't proven.
Kind of like using mythology or archetypes.
Exactly. It draws a parallel to Jungian psychology and its use of archetypes, suggesting that astrology, when applied carefully, could be a sophisticated system for self-exploration and understanding the complexities of being human.
That idea of astrology as a symbolic language, regardless of a physical mechanism, is definitely a perspective that resonates with many people who find value in it, separate from scientific proof.
Okay, now let's dive into this project-derived profile that the AI put together just from looking at Aquarian Rising's work. Remember, over 150 diverse items.
Right, the profile built just from the creative output.
The AI identified some key intellectual and creative tendencies. First, it found a strong pattern of being an architect of complex systems, someone who really enjoys and excels at designing intricate systems across different areas.
Okay, so a systems thinker.
Yeah.
Like structure, connections, how things fit together.
Absolutely. So a key insight here is this individual's sheer capacity for systemic thinking, a drive to build and understand how different pieces fit together.
Got it. What else?
Second, a prolific and expansive imagination, generating a huge number of ideas for large-scale projects.
So building on that systemic thinking, the AI also identified a second key trait, a truly generative mind. Lots of ideas flowing.
Third, a syncretic and interdisciplinary innovator, someone who can pull ideas from different fields, like totally different areas, and create unique, original concepts.
A mental magpie, maybe? Bringing shiny ideas from everywhere to build something new.
That's a good way to put it. Fourth, a visionary and forward-thinking approach, especially when it comes to technology and specifically AI.
Okay, future-oriented.
And finally, a meticulous detail orientation and drive for completeness, but specifically in the initial planning stages.
Interesting distinction, detail-oriented in planning.
Yeah, that's a pretty comprehensive picture just from analyzing creative output, isn't it? It highlights a powerful intellect with a wide-ranging curiosity.
It really does,
Yeah.
just from the projects alone.
It does. The AI also identified core personality and motivational traits. These included a strong sense of agency and empowerment focus, a principled reformist and social critic, someone with a desire to critique systems and offer alternatives.
Okay, so not just building systems, but critiquing and trying to improve existing ones too.
Exactly, and an advocate for openness, decentralization, and individual liberty. These traits suggest someone who not only thinks deeply, but also seems to care about broader societal issues, at least based on their work.
Right, suggests a certain ideological leaning, maybe, or at least a focus.
Well, the analysis framed it as a consistent theme in the projects. Other traits identified were being intellectually curious and a lifelong learner, having a direct, assertive, and often provocative communication style.
Ah, okay. Doesn't shy away from strong opinions.
Seems like it. Also, being a resilient and iterative problem solver, possessing a versatile and adaptable creative voice, and having a strong narrative and world-building drive.
So putting that together, someone who isn't afraid to express their views, keeps pushing through challenges, and loves creating these big, immersive worlds or narratives.
Exactly. Summing it all up, the AI described the Project Drive profile as a visionary systems architect driven by curiosity and a reformist impulse, mastering detailed conceptualization, especially, it noted, with the aid of AI.
So the AI sees a powerful intellect focused on building and improving systems, strong creative drive, forward-thinking perspective, a lot packed in there.
A lot. Now comes the really fascinating part. Comparing this project-derived profile with the combined astrological and psychometric profile.
Okay, this is where the percentages came in before.
Right. So, for context, Aquarian Rising's MBTI result was ENTPA. Big five. High openness, high extroversion, moderate agreeableness, low conscientiousness, and very low neuroticism.
Got it. ENTPA, high openness, high extroversion, low conscientiousness, very low neuroticism, moderate agreeableness. Okay.
And astrologically, key highlights included a strong Leo-Virgo influence in the 4th house. Think of that as the private world, home base. Gemini ascendant, the outward presentation, the mask, Aquarius midheaven public image, career calling.
Plus, tensions involving Uranus and Neptune often linked to innovation and vision, a resilient Saturn placement, Libra elements fostering fairness, and strong creative and transformative urges linked to the 5th and 8th houses in astrological terms.
So quite a complex astrological picture too, definitely. So we have the personality derived from projects, the personality measured by tests, and the personality interpreted through astrological symbolism. 3 layers.
And the AI compared them?
And found overwhelming congruencies. For instance, the project-derived traits of prolific and expansive imagination and being an interdisciplinary innovator.
Yeah, the idea generator and connector.
Perfectly aligned with high openness from the Big Five, the ENTPs, and the intuitive aspect, the Gemini ascendant's curiosity, the innovative Aquarius midheaven, and the influence of Neptune.
Wow, okay, so that's a strong alignment right there. The tendency to generate novel ideas matches indicators of an open, curious, innovative mind across all 3 systems: projects, psychometrics, astrology.
Exactly. Similarly, the assertive and resilient aspects from the project profile. They matched well with the ENO-TPA designation. The A is for assertive. Also, the low neuroticism, high extroversion, and certain assertive placements in the astrological chart, like the Leo, Sun, and Mars.
Makes sense. Assertiveness showing up consistently.
The AI also noted how the project creator's flexible, unconventional, and system-challenging approach resonated with the ENTP's perceiving function, the P, also the low conscientiousness.
Which sounds counterintuitive for detailed projects, but maybe we'll get to that.
We will. But that low C plus Uranus aspects and the Aquarius midheaven, it seems the AI found consistent themes of innovation and maybe a rejection of traditional constraints across all three frameworks.
Okay, so a pattern of breaking molds, thinking outside the box, showing up everywhere.
Pretty much. Even the drive for meaning and impact seen in the projects aligned with the ENTP's desire to understand and improve systems, the sort of humanitarian vibe of the Aquarius midheaven, and other chart placements indicating a desire for broad impact.
So the why behind the work also seemed consistent.
Yeah. The AI also addressed areas that reconcile well, like the balance between being cooperative, remember, moderate agreeableness, and those assertive, debating tendencies from the ENTP side. And the interplay of maybe an intense private core, that Leo-Virgo fourth house, with a very public-facing engagement, the Aquarius MC and Gemini AC.
So showing how seemingly contrasting traits could actually coexist and make sense when you look at the whole picture from different angles, it's interesting how the AI found nuance there.
It really is. Now, that minor nuance you mentioned, the apparent contradiction of low conscientiousness with the detailed work in the projects.
Yeah, how does that work? Low conscientiousness usually suggests being less organized, maybe procrastinating.
Right. The AI reconciled this by suggesting that the low conscientiousness likely manifests as a dislike for external routine, imposed schedules, that sort of thing, while the drive for order and detail comes from an internal motivation related to personal visions.
Ah, okay. So not necessarily disorganized about things they care about, just resistant to external structure.
That's the interpretation. And the AI even speculated this might be aided by using AI tools for the more tedious aspects, allowing focus on the vision.
That's a key insight, actually. Low conscientiousness doesn't have to mean slocky work, just a different approach to structure, maybe prioritizing the big picture or personal vision over ticking boxes.
Exactly. So ultimately, the AI's overall interpretation was that the project-derived profile acts as a behavioral manifestation, like how the person acts out their underlying cognitive and emotional structures, indicated by the combined astrological and psychometric profile.
The projects are the outward expression of the inner blueprint, basically.
That's a good way to phrase it. And the final comparative analysis percentile score for that comparison: projects versus combined profile.
Was that the 92%?
That was a staggering 92% similarity, 92%.
Yeah.
That really underscores the AI's conclusion about the strong alignment between these different ways of assessing personality in this case.
Yeah, 92% between observed behavior projects and the underlying assessed traits is quite remarkable.
Following this, the AI shared its thoughts and insights about the overlaps. It emphasized the power of core traits consistently manifesting across diverse projects, like the same person showing up again and again.
The core signal being strong and clear.
And highlighted how AI, in this case, acted as an amplifier of personality rather than an obscurer, which is an interesting thought about AI's role.
Yeah, that it revealed more rather than hiding the person.
It reiterated that reinterpretation of low conscientiousness in a highly productive individual, and noted how the recurring Aquarian age theme in the projects seemed to align pretty neatly with the Aquarius midheaven in the natal chart.
So finding these specific thematic echoes between the work and the chart, these insights really bring together the different threads of the analysis, don't they? Showing how the AI sees a cohesive picture emerging.
They do. The AI also pointed out how the natal chart's tensions, astrological aspects that indicate challenge or dynamism, might actually act as drivers of innovation for this person.
Like the grit in the oyster making the pearl.
Kind of. And it underscored the remarkable convergence of methodologies, project analysis versus psychometrics versus astrology in painting a consistent portrait.
It's almost as if the AI is saying that different roads are leading to the same destination here in terms of understanding this individual's core characteristics.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. Briefly, the AI also provided a conventional psychometric evaluation, with just laying out the ENTPA profile and the implications of each Big Five trait for Aquarian risings: behavior, innovative thinking, social assertiveness, flexible approach, cooperative nature, emotional resilience.
Right, the standard interpretation based on established psychological frameworks.
Right.
A baseline.
Then it summarized the sidereal natal interpretation, highlighting those key themes again: powerful private identity, fourth house Leo Virgo, tension between private and public life, opposition to MC, creative power and maybe fated relationships, fifth house stuff, transformation through challenges, 8th house, healing through service and innovation, Chiron, Uranus, Neptune, that communicative outward persona, Gemini, AC, and the innovative public calling, Aquarius, MC.
So giving us the astrological perspective on the individual's potentials, challenges, life themes as seen through that particular lens.
Exactly. And finally, the AI directly compared astrology versus psychometrics on their own.
Okay, just those two systems.
Identifying thematic congruencies for each Big Five trait with specific astrological indicators. And for that comparison, it estimated an 88% thematic similarity.
88%. So even when comparing just astrology and psychometrics directly, the AI found a high degree of overlap in the personality descriptions they provided for this person.
Seems so. The AI then shared its 3 key takeaways about Aquarian rising, based on everything. First, a prolific architect of complex systems and worlds, evidenced by the diverse range of detailed projects.
Systems builder? Check.
Second, a driven innovator and reformer deeply engaged with AI, aiming for ambitious visions. It mentions specific project examples here, like something called eudaimonic quadrarchy and open council.
Innovator, reformer, AI focus. Check.
And third, a remarkably resilient and assertive intellect committed to deep exploration and sharing insights, mentioning the range of topics they explored.
Resilient, assertive, deep diver. Check. Those takeaways nicely summarize the core essence the AI perceived through its whole analysis.
They do. And for a bit of practical insight, kind of amusingly, the AI even generated notes for creative collaborators under the Bird Flipping Games banner, presumably one of the project names.
Okay, what did it advise?
It advised collaborators to expect a visionary with a detailed blueprint mentioning the large scale of the game universes. Expect a master of leveraging AI, but someone still reliant on human expertise for things like coding, art, music.
Makes sense. AI as a tool, not a replacement for a specialist.
And it advised them to be prepared for an edgy, provocative, and ideologically neutral culture, mentioning a specific provocative project titled Speed Racist, and noting an anti-woke stance described in the source material. Just reporting that was in the analysis notes for collaborators.
Right, so giving a heads up about the potential work environment and style based on the overall profile. Practical implications.
Now remember we mentioned that Aquarian Rising also tasked Grok 3 with a similar analysis previously.
Right, the other AI model.
Interestingly, the Google AI, Gemini, noted a high degree of convergence between both AI's interpretations of the natal chart and psychometrics.
So different AIs, similar conclusions on those parts.
Apparently, both AIs even made similar decisions to sort of omit certain natal data when comparing it directly to personality traits, focusing on the most directly comparable aspects.
That suggests a degree of consistency, maybe, in how advanced AI models approach this kind of complex comparative analysis. Interesting. Let's see how its analysis compared overall.
Well, here's a key point that Google AI re-emphasized: the significance of that project-derived profile's 92% similarity to the combined assessment.
The profile based just on the creative work.
Yeah. Even though Grok 3 also had access to the project data, the fact that the Google AI specifically built a profile from it and found such a strong match, it suggests that the individual's work is just a really powerful reflection of their inner self.
It really underscores that idea, doesn't it? That what we create, what we do, can be a very strong indicator of who we fundamentally are, maybe more than we realize.
The AI even provided examples of how specific astrological nuances manifest in the projects. Like that Leo 4th house, the private, maybe proud inner world being opposite the Aquarius MC, the unconventional, public-facing calling. It saw that tension reflected in the projects, this interplay between personal vision and broader impact.
So connecting the symbolic chart points to tangible, creative themes.
Yeah, it reiterated the key insights from the Grok comparison too. Intensely authentic individual, system building as a core drive, pioneering AI engagement, and the revealing nature of the project's sheer scale.
It seems the Google AI sees a very strong and consistent thread running through all aspects of this individual's life and work, regardless of which AI is looking or exactly how.
That seems to be the conclusion. And finally, the Google AI acknowledged the clarification that Grok 3 did have access to the project data, and it reflected briefly on the implications for how AI might prioritize different data types in complex analysis. But it reinforced the idea that the individual's underlying signal, their core personality, seems robust and comes through clearly across different data types and even different AI analytical approaches.
So even with slightly different methods or focus points, both AI models seem to point towards a very coherent and consistent picture of this individual.
So to summarize this incredible deep dive for you, the listener, we've seen this remarkable alignment that Google's AI found between one individual's creative work, their astrological chart, and their psychometric test results.
And not just a little alignment, that 92% figure stands out.
It really does. 92% thematic similarity between the personality derived just from the projects and the combined astrological and psychometric profiles. It's quite something.
And the AI's conclusion, just to reiterate, wasn't astrology is proven, it was more nuanced.
Exactly. The AI concluded that while this single case doesn't prove astrology works universally, the intricate congruence it found definitely warrants further rigorous and open-minded exploration using modern tools like AI.
The major insight perhaps being that astonishing level of agreement itself, suggesting these seemingly disparate methods might be tapping into something fundamental and consistent about this person.
Right. Now we turn it over to you, the learner. What are the implications of this deep dive for you? Does it challenge any of your own assumptions about how we understand personality, or maybe where insights can come from?
Does it spark any thoughts about the potential of AI, not just for tasks, but maybe for helping us understand ourselves better? What signal, perhaps, might your own creative endeavors or life choices be sending out into the world about who you are?
Yeah, it's kind of a personal reflection point, too.
And it raises a provocative final thought for you to consider. Could AI be a key, maybe, to unlocking entirely new ways of understanding human potential, seeing the interconnectedness of different facets of who we are, our psychology, our creative expression, maybe even these ancient symbolic systems? Could it help us move beyond the limitations of traditional methods?
What could truly rigorous AI-powered research into these kinds of systems ultimately reveal? We obviously don't know yet.
But it's a fascinating question to ponder.
It's a lot to consider, isn't it? We encourage you to think about it, maybe discuss it. Feel free to share your own thoughts or questions. We're always curious to hear what resonates with you out there. This fascinating intersection of AI, psychology, and perhaps even ancient wisdom, well, it clearly has a lot more to uncover.